in this battle, we are taking on JoseCMP. And this is actually a guy I battled before in the past, so it's interesting to see that we can rematch him here. So as you can see, he has quite the interesting setup. You can see that he actually has a Mega Lopunny and a shiny Ash Greninja. Then he also has Galarian Darmanitan. He has Dusclops, Espeon, which looks like a HA, and he has shiny Ditto. So this is quite the team right here. It's been a while since I've seen such an interesting competitive setup. And for those who are wondering why, you can see that he has a Mega Lopunny and Ash Greninja, like why they're in that form in the team preview. It's because when you spawn into Pokemon, like there's a bug that can happen where like let's say you put in form and you say like Mega when you're spawning into like Lopunny, for example, then it's gonna come out like with that icon. It's gonna work as normal. Same thing with Ash Greninja. Like if you put in, like, it'll let you choose like what kind of form you want for the Pokemon. So if you put in like Ash there, it's gonna get you Ash Greninja. It's gonna be normal, but the icon's gonna be Ash Greninja. So I mean, that's definitely interesting. It kind of gives us some essential information. So anyways, now I was thinking about leading with Glalie, if you saw it earlier, but I was like, wait a second, this guy is probably gonna predict that. So I've already battled him before. Not really with Glalie, but still, like, he might be a viewer of the channel. So I was thinking, well, if I was gonna go to Glalie, what would he do to counter attack that? And I was thinking, well, Lopunny would probably be his move. So I was thinking Slurpuff might be the best move then in that case. So I can get it in, and then I could go for, like, say, maybe even just Drain Punch, just to get some chip damage off. And then, like, let's say he attacked me before that, because he probably would outspeed me, then I would be able to activate my berry. I think it's a citrus berry. Then I'll get Unburden, and then I can get all that HP back with Drain Punch. And then Slurpuff can become a good revenge killer in this game, and actually it can probably just be useful overall to check other Pokemon. So anyways, when I went for a Drain Punch. Now this guy might have made a great prediction because he went to Dusclops. I mean, I don't know why he'd predict that. So in most cases, you probably want to go for a Play Rough, but that even with Play Rough, that would be an excellent check because Dusclops is an incredibly bulky Pokemon. Now the truth is, it is kind of a sitting duck, but it can be scary. And I know exactly what he's gonna do. He's gonna go for a Will-O-Wisp to shut down my Slurpuff. So I was thinking, well, who's the best Pokemon to take it in? I looked at Snorlax because I have Rest, but Toxapex was probably just better off because, I mean, having a Burn isn't actually even half bad because it's a lot better than having Paralysis. So I was like, well, Toxapex is probably the best person to take that in, even though a Burn is quite annoying. I was thinking also Volcarona could work, although I'm not sure what I'm gonna do once I get it in after I take in the Burn. I don't know this guy's moveset either. So anyways, I go into Toxapex here to absorb the Burn, and yeah, he of course goes for the Will-O-Wisp, which isn't really a big deal. So I go for Toxic here. So I'm trying to play safe in case this guy has knockoff, and I know Scald might not be affected. I mean, I was also thinking, like I just want to test my luck with Toxic. So normally in most cases it can never go wrong. So he actually makes a smart play here by going into Espeon, and it has the Magic Bounce ability, so it gets cancelled. Now the good thing is that I'm already part Poison type, and even if I wasn't, I would already be burned, so it wouldn't really matter. But this was a good play. Now I was a bit concerned because Espeon actually can hit pretty hard because it has a really high special attack stat. Then at the same time I realized, well, I do actually have Snorlax. Now, I'm not sure if this is a great play in case he starts setting up on the Toxapex, but I figured it may as well be done. So it could probably prove to be an effective play here, especially because Snorlax is really specially defensive. And for those wondering, a lot of people requested Slurpuff a lot earlier, so I wanted to fit it into my team somehow. So I figured that Florges should go out because I didn't want to have two fairy types or just two of the same type. It's just something I try and do normally with my team. Now, of course, there are exceptions, like if two Pokemon have the same, like if they have dual typings, like let's say an electric dark type, which actually doesn't exist in this game, I don't think, and then a dark fire type. I mean, they both do different things, and they just happen to have a shared typing. But like, I don't want two pure fairy types, if that makes sense. Like they're the exact same thing, so they don't really offer any diversity, even though fairy is such a good type. So I put out Florges, and I needed especially defensive Pokemon, so I figured that Snorlax would actually work because it shares a typing with Heliolisk. Now I don't really use Heliolisk as a normal type, I use it more as an electric type, but I figured it would work because I do need a special defensive Pokemon in it, and Snorlax really has been doing that quite good. So anyways, I switch into Volcarona on his Dusclops. Him switching into Dusclops on Snorlax is actually a pretty good play. Like, this guy is quite good. So I was expecting another Will-O-Wisp, so I figured that Volcarona would be a good play. And then I was also thinking he might have knockoff, and I don't really want my Toxapex to get knocked off, so I figured that Volcarona would be the best Pokemon to switch in, because it would take Will-O-Wisp well as it's part fire type, so it would be affected. And I don't take knockoff, could knock off Z crystals, so that was that. So anyways, he actually tries to make a really good prediction here by going into Darmanitan. I guess he was expecting Toxapex, and I was lucky because I didn't do that, so I didn't have to risk taking a pretty hard hit. So anyways though, this is still not a great matchup, because even though Volcarona has a good typing against Darmanitan and can probably one-shot it, the problem is that most Darmanitans run the ability Guerrilla Tactics, which is at least in the Uber strategy. What it does is that it allows you to run a Choice Scarf and a Choice Band at the same time. You could also run dual Choice Band, but most people are running Choice Scarf instead, and that means this guy's gonna outspeed me. And I found out that Darmanitan actually gets Rock type coverage, so I didn't want to sit in there and take the risk of losing Volcarona, because Volcarona is pretty key to my team. So I figured that I would put Toxapex in. Now the good thing is he's locked into that Flare Blitz, so I'm in a good situation. And I'm glad he went for Flare Blitz rather than something else. I guess he might have had ground type coverage, but I'm glad he didn't use it there. It's like that would be a big problem for my Toxapex. But I was lucky that he instead went for a Flare Blitz there. So he was locked in and he had no choice to switch out, and I figured this would be a good chance to get Sizer in. I wasn't fully sure what he would switch into, but I figured it would be a good move. And then I actually thought about it. He went into Dusclops, and although I can get a knockoff and ruin his Dusclops, he also could Will-O-Wisp me. He's probably gonna take the knockoff because of just how tanky Dusclops is, and a Will-O-Wisp on my Sizer for a knockoff on Dusclops isn't a good trade-off in my opinion. Like, it's gonna shut down both of our Pokemon, but for me, Sizer is just so important to my game plan, especially for Pokemon like Mega Lopunny, where I could just finish them off while they're low. So I figured it's best to let Volcarona take in another Will-O-Wisp, and this was actually good now because I had a good matchup against this guy, and he'd probably have to switch out. So I figured I'd just go for a Flamethrower just to get damage and see how much it does, especially in case he decides to switch out into something else like let's just say Lopunny, because I could also get a potential burn. So I figured that'd be a good move. Now he actually decides to attack and he goes for Nightshade. I was like, well, that's actually that's pretty weak, so I can afford to stay in and just take more of that. So I go for another Flamethrower on this dude, and it's close to finishing him. So I figured he might not go for a Pain Split, although I don't really want to take the risk of getting too low too, because having Volcarona healthy is pretty important. So luckily this guy's actually running Rest rather than Pain Split on this Dusclops, and that kind of makes it ineffective in a sense, because now he's basic setup fodder. I also kind of know his movesets. He has Rest, Nightshade, and Will-O-Wisp, so I was expecting his last move to be Knockoff, but he actually has Sleep Talk on his Dusclops, which is actually even better, because now I know that he doesn't have Knockoff, and that Dusclops really can't do anything but Nightshade, and that's not going to be an effective way to take care of Volcarona. So I really take this opportunity right here to just start setting up on this guy, and I already get to +2, and he goes for another Sleep Talk, goes for a Nightshade. It really doesn't matter that much. It doesn't do any damage. So I figured now it's probably the best time to attack before he starts changing his mind and trying to switch out or do anything like that. Now he wakes up, gets another Nightshade off. I was thinking, well, I do want to be at full HP too, in case he tries to switch into something else and finish me off. So I do want to really just get as much out of this this Volcarona as I can. So he gets off one more Nightshade, which is totally fine, and I take this opportunity to finish him off with a flamethrower, and that's great. So I didn't like Dusclops at all, so seeing it gone is pretty useful for my team. Now next up he goes into Ditto, and one thing I didn't realize is that Ditto actually copies your stat changes too. So this guy, and he's running Choice Scarfs. That's basically what most people who use Ditto choose to run. So this is a really good way to shut down sweeps. Now luckily with my Volcarona, I also boosted my special defense with Quiver Dance, so his attack is basically neutral, and my specific Volcarona is an incredibly bulky one with a lot of HP and defensive investment, so I was actually able to take that hit really good, unlike him with his Dittos. Ditto will basically copy everything except the HP stat. That's the one weakness with Ditto, so he took a pretty bad hit there, and I took that opportunity right there to get off another roost, and I'm lucky he switched out because now my Volcarona is pretty healthy, and I took his Ditto down to half HP. So he goes into Espeon. I was a bit concerned, thinking, well, this guy, he might have some sort of like, move like Light Screen, or he could go for maybe even Side Shock in case he outspam me. I wasn't too concerned about that. I was more so worried about Light Screen or something like that. But I decided, I'm just gonna go for a Bug Buzz and hope he doesn't have a Focus Sash, because I really don't want this guy to recover from the sweep, because I have a really good stance against him right now. So anyways, he takes his time to process and think, as you can see, although he is in a really bad situation, and this is just what I love about Volcarona, especially my specific setup, and you just have to be so careful around it. Like if you let it set up, that's it, you're gonna be in big trouble, especially if it has access to a Z crystals. Then it can basically powerhouse through most of the meta. So in that situation, it proved that he didn't actually have a Focus Sash on his Espeon. I assume he was probably running like leftovers or something like that. So he goes back into his Ditto, and that's totally fine, because now I'm actually at a pretty good amount of HP, so I'm not too concerned about dying here. So I just go for the Flamethrower just to play it safe. Like, I mean, what I'm saying, like that's just the most optimal move. Now I wasn't sure what he was gonna do, because he could also play around it, but in this case he didn't. So I really don't know what this guy has. Like, this guy has proven to be quite the skilled opponent. So anyways, luckily we are able to dispatch the Ditto, and his Flamethrower doesn't really do too much damage. Like, it only brings us really to yellow HP. And I realized, well, now this guy is in a lot of trouble. Now, unless he has like Fake Out or some sort of priority, I don't know how he's gonna get rid of this Volcarona that's already at +2 with his Z move still available. So he goes into Lopunny, and I decided, well, it's probably better to just go for a Flamethrower here, because it's gonna do some good damage. I didn't think I needed to use my Z move quite yet, and luckily it was enough to one shot. Now I don't know if the critical hit was necessary or not, but I like to assume it wasn't, because Lopunny is just a generally frail Pokemon. So I mean that I feel like that would probably still one shot even normally. So anyways, he goes into Darmanitan next, and luckily we outspeed it, even though it's probably a choice item Pokemon, so that's good. We take care of it, and now he's on his last Pokemon. So really, even if he was able to take care of Volcarona a lot earlier, I basically tore through his whole team. Now, one thing he could have had was actually Water Shuriken and Greninja. I'm sure that would have actually been a good way to shut down Volcarona before it got, pretty dangerous. But luckily for me, and unfortunately for him, he didn't have that available. So I decided, well, I may as well finish off in style and use my Z move. So I enjoy getting to, see that animation. So that is enough to finish him off, and that is good game.